Hello and welcome to the latest episode in my Take 10 mail art project. I've been mailing out envelopes of goodies to people each month and asking them to make something. We're working with the November envelope today. This is the last one for this year. I'll be starting up again in next January. So shall we take a look at what I sent to people, what I'm going to make, and what other people made? So here's what was inside the November envelope. Of course, I always like to decorate the envelope. This one came with a healthy serving of stickers, some hearts on the front, some animal stickers on the back, piece of washi tape, and another bright colorful sticker. And then inside there is a alcohol themed playing card. Most of them were wine, but I think there were a couple of bourbon as well. And then there was a sheet of paper. Now you can't really see it, but it has the palest blue floral pattern on it. There's also a piece of floral print tissue paper, bit of a mesh lace curtain, of course the instructions for the project, a page a day crossword calendar, a random blank greeting card. Then there was a floral photograph, a piece of feather themed paper, a large postcard advertising a children's book called Ebony and the Web. There's a couple of pieces of a tourist map from Hong Kong, a little square of blue tissue paper, a square foil, canvas alphabet stickers, a few words, and a piece of sheet music. In the past, I've always been inspired by what was in the envelope, but this time I have to admit I was pretty stumped. And then I decided rather than letting the envelope inspire me, I would come up with a theme and then see if I could get the things in the envelope to fit the theme. And the theme that I came up with was paper dolls. Earlier this year, I'd made this series of paper dolls in response to a color combination challenge, and I really liked it. I had a lot of fun working on this. I decided to make some paper dolls and to use the drawings that I had done previously to influence the dolls that I'm going to make today. And so what I did was I started out drawing faces using the previous designs that I'd come up with to guide my new faces. And really they're very simple, and the face is basically the same. The only difference really is the hair. And I'll tell you the secret to drawing a convincing looking face. It's putting the eyes in the right place. Most of us, until somebody points this out, when we draw a face, and I think this is sort of a universal thing, we put the eyes quite high up on the face. And human eyes are actually about halfway between your chin and the top of your head. And I know right now you are trying that out. I'm sure everybody does that the first time they hear this. So and most of us, when we draw a face, where we draw the eyes is actually somewhere where in the middle of our forehead. So if you want to draw a convincing looking face and you move the eyes down to halfway between the top of the head and the chin, your face will automatically look more realistic. So I went through and picked 5 different faces. Don't know why I decided 5, but I decided I was going to do 5. Picked out 5 faces, and I even decided to choose a bald one. My daughter often shaves her head, and I was thinking of her, but this one goes in an interesting direction. The next thing that I did was I got out some paint to paint my skin tones. I'm using gouache, and gouache is like a poster paint, but it's like a watercolor poster paint. The cleanup with gouache is really quick. Oh yes, and I forgot about this earlier, that my people, for what I have in mind, my people need to have some arms. So I drew in some quick, simple arms as well and painted those in while I was painting the face. So I'm just going to show you one of the the dolls that I made turns out to be the bald one, because basically they were all the same. So after I've painted in the face, painted in the skin tone for the face and the arms, I went through my stack of papers and decided which papers I wanted to create clothing for each of the dolls. And for this one, I decided I was going to use the picture of the flowers for top and the tissue paper for the skirt. And I'm dithering here a bit about how to cut out that photograph, because I really want to save the buds, the pictures of the buds. I don't want those to get cut up because I might want to use them later. Now the tissue paper itself is quite flimsy, so I thought it would be easier to use. I'm going to use it to make a skirt, and I thought that it could use some strengthening. If these are going to be paper dolls, or actually they're going to end up being little puppets, hand puppets, then it would be better for me to strengthen that tissue paper. So I decided to glue it onto the sheet music, and I'm using gel medium, which is basically plastic. All acrylic paints and mediums are plastic. So the sheet music paper is a bit fragile as well. So giving those two fragile pieces of paper a good healthy coating off, or maybe not so healthy coating off plastic, is going to strengthen both of them, and they'll hold up to some wear and tear. And I set it aside to dry, and in the meantime change my mind about what this person is going to be wearing, because I think I decided that I wanted to use one of the flower buds as a hair accessory, and Baldy here doesn't need a hair accessory. So I changed my mind, decided to use the crossword puzzle to create a kilt. So I drew a plaid onto it. I remember back in the 80s, I used to have a mesh tank top that I used to wear over t-shirts, so I thought this person needed that. I'm layering up the mesh on top of the greeting card to create a top. I'm using some watercolor pencil crayons to do some highlights on the face and some shadows on the face, and things got a little bit carried away. And it turned out that this person actually has some facial hair, so maybe it's not my daughter after all. And I thought it looked like her boyfriend, who also shaves his head. So he does not think it looks like him, but I think it does. So now once I finished off, I started adding the arms and onto my people, and you're wondering, well, what about the legs? Well, you'll find out why I punched those holes in the bottom in a minute. But I added the arms on using brads or paper fasteners in a similar way that I had created some wings for one of my characters in one of my previous videos. And I found a hole punch with a hole. The last time I did this, I didn't have a hole punch with a nice small hole, but I managed to find a hole punch with a smaller hole. So I'm using, if the hole you punch is too big, it doesn't hold the brads in place firmly, but I found one that makes a nice small hole. So I've added the arms onto all the people, and I've punched some holes in the bottom, and you're wondering, what the heck are those holes in the bottom for? Well, that's where the legs go. And I'll show you in a minute after I pull out all the people that I made, and I'm really pleased with the way they turned out. They make me very happy. And then with some of the leftover bits, I created this, I put them on the front of this file folder, and I made a little home for my family, for my people here. Patricia, I'm going to have to add the word Dean and the Webbs. I realized after I made this, I've got a D, a T, and a W. So T and W are the Webbs. D is Dean, and I guess the other two are Patricia and Ebony. And here's my little fashion show. I think this one must be Patricia. Hello. Nice to see you. She got a little flower in her hair. There's Dean with his fancy kilt. Jumping for joy there. This one is Ebony. No reason. I guess the spider on her shirt's named Ebony. Here's web number 1. which is, I guess, similar to thing number one, thing one and thing two. This is web one and web two. The webs. They are the webs. And she's not, she's supposed to be holding her arms out, cheering loudly. And now let's take a look and see what other people made. And my friend Debra has been making a series of signatures, which are a collection of folded papers. And she's planning to bind them together into a junk journal. And I have it under good authority that she's already made her junk journal. And Dominique also went with the book idea, but hers is a very different one. She's put little grommets at the top of each of her pages, and her book's held together with a ring. And I have to tell you, I really admire people who can set eyelets like that well, because I have a hard time doing it. And Elaine created a zoo, and it's a really funny zoo. I love the way that she used the pages, the stripes in the pages to create her cages, and there are creatures popping in and out of cages. There's even a fly under mesh there. Joanne was also inspired by the zoo theme, and she's got a rather poignant message here with her animals behind mesh that they don't belong there. Now Nadine made this fun little card, and it says here, you can see the inside and the outside. On the inside it says, "The New York Times, France Food Pairing Cafe. Don't play with your lunchtime food." Good advice, I'd say. And that cougar. Now, Nancy created a spread in her journal that was an ode to a children's book author named Oliver Jeffers. And if you know of his work, you might see how she's influenced there. I really like it. Penelope's been making 2 collages because she says I send so much stuff, and quite often they seem to divide up into 2 different color schemes. And she definitely did that here. So she's got one titled The Language Web, and I like the way that she's used just sort of short words that kind of don't really say anything, but it's kind of, they're all connected. And then the other page says, "P.S. I love you," with all kinds of lovey-dovey things. It's very sweet. Love it. Rochelle made herself a set of artist trading coins. Now, artist trading coins are similar to artist trading cards, but instead of being rectangular, there are 2.5-inch diameter circles, and I think those are just lovely. Sharon said that as soon as she saw the letters in her envelope, she knew she had to create something that reminded her of her dad, so she used this photograph of some of the men in her family and created this really sweet, sweet page. I love it. And then this one is so sweet. It says, "I love you." And this one, I have to admit, I'm taking it personally because it was made by one of my daughters. My other daughter's coming home tonight, actually, and we'll see what she makes. So what do you think? If I sent you an envelope of random collage materials, what would you make? The November envelope was the last one for 2021. I'll be sending out another envelope in early January. So if you'd like me to send you an envelope with about 10 collage goodies in it, and we'll see what you make, get in touch, and I will be sending, like I said, I'll be sending those out soon. So that's it for this time, and I'm getting close to the end of my 52 things, my 52 videos for this year. And I think my next video, I'm going to tell you about what my plans for 2022 are. See you then.